Welcome to the Priority Lane podcast, the show where we learn how to work smarter, not faster. I'm your host, Nigel Catt, and today we're joined by Juanita Wrenn. Wynita is the Managing Director of Hudson Financial Partners in Brisbane, a business she's been devoted to since leaving university. This devotion and a fair amount of hard work led to Wynita running the business. During her tenure as MD, Wynita has guided Hudson through one of the most dynamic periods in financial services, expanding the firm's capabilities across every dimension of wealth management. Outside of work, Wynita is a proud mum of four, a set of twin boys and a 14-year-old boy and her baby girl. Welcome to the podcast, Wynita.
Thank you, Nigel, for having me.
And how are you today? Well, in saying that, I do know you've got a slight cold.
I've been sick, yes. I rarely get sick. So when I get sick, I'm all or nothing. I either get nothing or I get sick and I get sick. So, but it's just a head cold and I'm almost over it, but I'm going to sound not the best today. But I think I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah, you're doing fine, and we'll just hope you last all the way through it.
I'll be fine.
Now, okay, so 4 kids. Now, our last guest had 4 kids as well, so I don't know if it's something to do with the industry or not. He had 4 boys. You've got, if I do my maths right, 3 boys and 1 girl.
That's right.
Yeah.
I had my little football team, and then everyone actually thinks I was trying for a girl. I mean, I feel so blessed, for better words, that I have a little girl. But I was happy with my 3 boys. I think boys teach you how to be noisy and carefree, how to let go a bit. They're definitely a lot of noise and a lot of fun. And then I got my little girl, and she makes me stop, and smell a flower, and she makes me slow down. So she's a blessing. She's a mini me though. She's bossy, and she actually bosses the boys more than I do. So she's a beautiful little addition. And then my 3 boys who keep us all busy and noisy. So, but I actually love a busy household. We've always got someone coming and going through the house, which is lovely. I love it.
And creating a lot of memories, no doubt.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun, and their friends come and go, and it's like a big, I call it sort of the halfway house here, which makes it fun.
And so how's the group dynamic, having 3 older boys, 1 then the younger girl? How do they interact? Do they pair off together or?
I think they do, because my older boys are 21 and they're twins, and they're close. And they've gone through school together and they've got the same group of friends. And then my younger 2 are 14 and 12. And so they're quite close, except my 14-year-old boy. I think he'd like to be with the 21-year-olds more than the 12-year-olds. So, but it's good. And definitely my daughter, she's more the matriarch than I am. So it's quite good. I let her take over when I need them to do something. So it works well, but they fight plenty, trust me. And I have to break up, some big fights with the boys, but they're best friends 2 minutes later. And that's the beauty of boys. I do love boys. They don't hold on to anything.
Yep. Short attention span, bang, forget about it, it's gone.
Exactly. Exactly.
Now, before the podcast, I asked you about your hobbies, and I've got your response here, and I'm going to quote it back to you because I thought it was great. Honestly, it's pretty simple: work and whatever my kids are into that week.
It's true. That's 100% right. It has to be that way. They don't give you a chance, do they? I mean, between work and whatever the kids have got on, that's pretty much my life. And I love it. I wouldn't have it any other way. I've always loved my work, and then I had my kids and I found something I love more than my work. And so I divide my time between everything the kids need from me and work. And then occasionally my husband and I try and get away, but it doesn't happen as much as he'd like. Yeah.
And so you find in not only work, obviously, but then you've got 4 kids and a husband all competing for time. How do you manage all of that?
It's funny. I think I don't sleep a lot. I do work. I work around my family. So I work all the time. I work more than a 40-hour week, always. But the beauty of my work is that I can get up at 6 and work before the kids are up. I can take them to school, go to work, do my meetings. The kids are old enough to get their way home. If they've got things on, I pick them up, and I'll sit back down when we all take turns at cooking dinner. So the kids will cook dinner as well.
Oh,
and
really?
I can work at the table. Yeah, that sounds good. I mean, that's, yes, in theory. in theory.
Right.
But when it does work, it's great. And so, and I can work then, and I can work at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. So I tend to pretty much prioritize my kids are first. Well, my
Mhm.
kids and my husband, and then work. And that's pretty much all I have. I work with my family. So my brother and sister work with me at work. My husband also
Oh.
works with me.
Oh,
And
wow.
and so work sort of encompasses my entire family. And I've always had Hudson. Like, it's always been sort of part of me, I guess.
Yeah.
And I think you've got to be like that when you're like a founder, or when it's your business. You've got to be like that because it requires so many arms in so many different directions. And I guess the beauty of my job is I don't have to be anywhere at any certain time, which makes me very fortunate as well. So I can balance and juggle my two priorities, but I don't think I could have three priorities. So if I was a really big sport fanatic, or if I was really wanting netball or got football or whatever it might be,
Mhm.
I think I would find it hard to balance three. I think I'm
Right.
lucky because I've never really had any hobbies outside of work and the kids, apart from travel. But is that a
Right.
hobby, or is that just what everyone wants to?
Yeah.
Like, I'll, I'll travel anywhere, but I don't know if I can call that a hobby.
So so incorporating your family into the workplace sort of solves that problem to a certain
Yeah,
extent.
exactly. Yeah,
Mm.
it's just led that way. I think my life has just always it's just led me in that on that path, and I've always been very close to my brother and sister because my parents split up when I was in high school. So the three of us remained very close throughout that. And I think
Mhm.
that was the catalyst that got me into financial planning because I was in high school in the late 80s, early 90s. So I graduated in 93. And that was the recession, like that was the the late 80s, early 90s. And that's when my parents split up. And I remember sitting in careers counseling, and the career counselor saying, what do you want to do? And I was like, I just want to be really good at money. I never want money to control me. Like, I just have to be the best of the best with money. I need to know it, learn it, live it, and make sure that I'm on top of money. And I think from that moment on, that's all I've sort of ever really done. And I'm the oldest, so I took my brother and sister sort of along with me for the ride. So it's been something that's been, I guess, not in my blood, but in my path, for the way my life had gone. So it's sort of led me to doing what I do. And hence why I think also my kids are so important, making sure that just because, looking after my brother and sister when I was younger,
Yeah.
the same for me now. So it's funny how life can lead you a certain way, and you end up, that's sort of where it was always meant to lead you.
Yeah, yeah, because you mentioned earlier, before the podcast, you found your calling early. So it was basically at school, just not wanting to be in control of finances, and
Yeah,
that's
I think just not letting money, I saw I mean, I was a teenager, so I was a bit young, but money definitely, interest rates were, up around that 17, 18%, and it was just a really terrible
yeah,
time. And um, for people that didn't have any sort of backing or any sort of financial um, foundation, it was, there was a lot of, a lot of divorces, a lot of unhappiness, a lot of suicides, a lot of people jumping out, windows. And it was just a bad time. And I just remember sitting in the careers counseling, I think before that I thought about being a psychologist, and it was, no, I need to know and learn everything it is about money so that I'm always in control. And I think it's funny because I always thought maybe a psychologist, and I think that what I do, or financial planning, it's a blend of behavioral, because if you don't know why you're buying a house or buying shares, if you don't understand about yourself, you're never going to be successful. Like, you're never going to create wealth if you don't know why you're doing something. It's a really powerful
yeah,
concept. Like, why are you talking to me? Why do you want to buy a house? Why do you want to buy an investment property? Um, if it's just to make money or because everyone else is doing it, you seem to, it's like when you drive out of a driveway and you don't know, you've got nowhere to go.
yeah.
You drive aimlessly, you've got no clear direction. It's a little bit the
Mm.
same with why are you doing something? Why are you
Mm.
buying something? Why are you getting that job? Why are you at uni? Like I say to my boys, don't go to uni, like go to uni, but only if get a degree, but do you know why? Don't just get a degree. Like, why do
Yeah.
you want that degree? Like, what's
Yeah.
calling you for it?
Yeah, so that I was to say it's interesting that our last guest had a background in psychology, but was in finance.
Oh,
We discussed a lot of that, and just what you mentioned about that purpose. Why are you getting a mortgage? Why are you getting a loan? I was just
yeah.
thinking when I was early 20s, I was working a couple of jobs and stuff and was saving up a fair bit of money and went to the bank manager and said, "Oh, I want to buy a property." And she sat there and went through. She's going, "Nigel," she's going, "Yeah, fine. I can give you a mortgage. That's no problems. But why? Why don't you
Mm,
go to Europe? Go to Europe
yeah,
and try."
that's
And I thought, okay. So I didn't buy a property. so, so I went to Europe and travelled and found my wife. So
yeah. So
I
that
got
was
some.
your why. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I yeah, met her in Germany. Is from Melbourne. So I met her in Germany. I grew up in Sydney, and then we stayed in contact, and I ended up moving to Melbourne. But yeah, it's just
Yeah.
if she hadn't have asked that question, well, why do you want a mortgage? Why
Why?
don't you just go travel? Get a mortgage whenever you want, but travel. And I thought, well, and I guess that's
I
changed my
say that to
life.
young people. Yeah, it's true. I say it to young people who come to me, I'm like, why do you want to buy a house? Like I get on the property ladder. Yes, you need
Mm,
like great, but you've got to have your own why. And if you're 25 and you've got $80,000 that you saved and you're trying desperately to buy a house, but you've got to buy a house out 30 kilometers from the city, your work's in the city, you're going to have, you're going to suddenly have this life where you're going to be on the grind. You've got to pay the mortgage, you've got to travel into the city because you can't afford to buy near the city. Um, have a reason why you're doing that. Like, are you wanting to, in 3 or 4 years, buy another property? Like, don't just buy that property, have a reason for it. Or think outside the box, which is what I love about our job. Rent vest, buy a property where you can afford it, rent near the city. As long as your rent is no more or not much more than the interest that you're going to be paying on that loan, you're no worse off. Like, rent is dead money, but so is interest on
mm,
that loan. That's dead money as well.
yeah,
And as long as every pay you're putting something away or you're doing something, it doesn't have to be a house just because society or because you think you need to buy a house. I've got
yeah,
some really wealthy, happy clients who rent in their retirement. They've got a lot of money. They could easily buy a house, but they like to move around. Their why or why they do things is they don't like to stay in one place for more than a couple of years. But in the same, like they live in Brisbane or Sydney, but they might live in Brisbane and Windsor for a while. And then they go and they live down at Redland Bay for a few years and they experience all different, they know what they like to do and they don't want to have just one house. So they rent everywhere. But they've got a huge portfolio, lots of money. They could easily buy a house, but that's
yeah,
not the life that they want. They know what their why is. Like, they know what they want. And that's really powerful. And that's where the psychology comes in with money, I think.
yeah, yeah. Do you find has that changed over years, or is that still an out?
I think it's changing. I think, 30 years ago, my parents, and it was expected you bought the house, and
Mm,
how many grandparents have probably been in their house for 50 or 60 years. Like that was very common. But now I think younger people, even, Gen X, my gen, um, like we want more from life. You don't just want to be in one suburb for 50 or 60 years. And if you do, that's great as well. As long as that's what you want. Like, as long as
yeah,
that's not what you think you have to do. If that's what you want, great. And often people that do that, they end up, they've got a house worth a lot of money, they've got really great super because they're usually the same sort of people that have the one job, their entire life. And but the younger generation doesn't accept that anymore. They move around, they change jobs, they try different things out, they live life. Um, but the thing with that is that you've still got to put money away. You've still got to remember that at some stage you're not going to want to have to work. You want to have control over, do I need to get up and go to work today, or can I, it's raining, I'm going to stay in bed and watch Netflix all day. To have
yeah,
that control. And then usually you'll choose to go to work because once you've got that control, or once you've got the freedom to do what you want to do, usually you choose to do. You don't choose to lie around all day.
well,
So
yeah,
having that
yeah,
control is, I think what everyone wants, regardless of where they work, is to have control over their own lives, and
yeah,
really the only way to do that's, you know, starting early and putting some money away for, to be able to have that control. Otherwise
yeah.
you're tied to you're working for the man, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's all about options, isn't it? Being in a
Yeah,
position where you have options of what you want to do, which is control.
yeah,
I was reading on your profile on LinkedIn. You said lesson you learned early was, where is it? That great financial advice isn't about products; it's about people. Is that sort of what you're referring to here? Don't worry about the financial products or the end goal. It's what you want. It's the why.
yeah. It's true because I could tell you, you could come and sit with me, Nigel, and we could talk about all the things that technically you should be doing.
Hmm.
Um, and then but if you don't believe in them, if you don't have a reason for it, if you don't have a really something that you passionately want to do, even if it's be able to work 3 days a week, or you want to go back to Europe where you first met your wife, or but that's a small thing, like
Yeah,
that's what we would call a little lifestyle blip on what we'd be doing for you. But it's all about you. I can tell you what to do, but it's like personal trainer. They can tell me to work out, or they can tell me to do 50 ab crunches a day, and I'd have great abs, I'm sure. But I'm never going to do that because I don't care enough, and I don't buy into it at this stage because I don't have time, so it's not on my priority list. So I'm never
yeah,
going to do 50 a day. And so no matter what a personal trainer tells me, they're not going to help me right now. And I think that's the same as financial planning. There's no point sitting with anyone and talking about money or putting money away unless you already know what you're trying to do, unless you believe and buy into it. It's very behavioral because as soon as markets fall, some of the clients that have had the worst, or people that I know that have lost the most money, they can't handle when markets drop, and they can see their portfolio dropping. It's going to come back up, and you just say, just
yeah,
even if you give it a week, it's going to go back up.
yeah,
And it's heartbreaking. So I don't like when I was advising, I don't advise at the moment. My team do. You've got to do PD hours, a whole lot of things to keep advising. I'm too busy to do all that. So I've got an amazing team that do it. But when I was doing it, I only used to take clients on. I'd basically sit and I'd say to them, if I take you on, you have to do what I say, or it's never going to work. Like for you to be successful, we have to work together. You have to believe in what you're doing, and I have to know why and what you want to get out of it. So yeah, it is about people, and it's about thinking outside the box because you're different to me, different to your sister. Everyone's different, and the technical is all the same. And that's why a really good advisor, or even a really good accountant, but a really good advisor will have an amazing paraplanner who's really technical, who does all the detail, who's brilliant because the technical's all the same. Doesn't matter who you are, the technical's the same. Legislation's the same, the rules are the same. Technical's always going to be the same, but it's what I can do for you. What are the nuances about your position, about your tax position, about your income, about how you live and all the other things that come into your life that I can, I guess, capitalize on to make your position better. So it's thinking
yeah.
outside the box, using the rules, but thinking outside the box for every single person who's different. And it's having advisors who can do that, because advisors to me are either technicians, which they're better at as paraplanners, or they love people and they get energy from people, and they know just from an hour or half an hour with you that, you're very family. Even just talking to you briefly before, you love your family. You work with your family like I do. And so one thing that we would talk about straight away is we'd look at your end goal, your testamentary trust, you know, um, could we do something for your grandchildren where they're going to have a trust that's not going to pay any tax? Because clearly family is very important. So I'd probably start backwards with someone like you, because already I know that you love your family so much. And we'd look at, okay, so everything you've built now, where's the end goal? And can we make that really strategic? And then we work backwards. But if you had no family, or you were talking about traveling all the time, I'd start talking to you about lifestyle. What sort of lifestyle do you want, Nigel? And so it's all about people rather than technical, because you can go to AI now and you can find
Yeah.
anything you want to about technical. You can ask Claude or Chat or any of the AI, and they're amazing, any of the legislation rules, but it's knowing how to use them and how to think outside the box with them. And having someone like me or an advisor who's going to sit on you and check on you and make sure you're doing what you should be doing to get you where you want to be. And where you want to be is different to where I want to be, or, your next door neighbor wants to be. So
Mm.
it's very individualized.
So yes. So what would you say? What 80% is getting to know the client and getting
Yeah.
to know where they want to be.
100%, because you can do so much of the technical yourself. You really can. And the paraplanners will do a lot of the technical. So for you and I, if you were my client now, we would pretty much talk about your life and what you like for 80% of the time. And then towards the end, I'd tell you the different strategies that I'm thinking of for you that are going to really help you get there. And then my paraplanner would then go and put all because I hate detail. Like I'm a terrible detail, terrible, but I know that about myself,
Yeah.
and
As long
I
as you
think
know it.
I know, as long as you know your faults right, you get people around you
Yeah.
who've got
Yeah.
that covered. And I've done that really well. I've got a really good team around me who know, well, I know my faults and they now know them as well. And I fill in their gap because I'm really good at being bossy and I'm happy to be bossy. And some people aren't happy to be bossy. They're not happy to get someone to do something for them. I love getting someone to do something for me. Come on, delegate all the way. But yeah, so I think when you've got a great paraplanner and an advisor who's really good at just reading the play or reading the room, you've got it's a dynamic team. You can't beat it.
Okay, that's interesting. Well, by the sounds of it, your daughter can take over. She's a bit of
Oh,
a boots as well.
you know what though? She wants to be a vet. She loves
Oh, right.
animals. Yeah, I know. Although she's only 12, I'm hoping to get her. None of my kids want to go into finance. It's
Oh, okay.
fascinating. I know.
Really?
I could give them all a great job.
Oh,
I know.
how
They're not
does that
interested.
affect you psychologically, knowing
I
that no
know.
one wants to follow mum?
Do you know what? I feel like I've done a good job because I feel sometimes I feel like they're following their own what they want at this point. They don't need to
Well,
please
that's
me.
the most important thing, isn't it?
Yeah, they're doing what
Well,
they
that's
want.
just what we've been talking about the last
Yeah,
10 minutes, isn't it?
exactly.
So,
Maybe I'm rubbing off on them, Nigel. Maybe all the times they roll their eyes at me, they're actually listening to me. You never know.
now, have you seen The Matrix,
Oh, do you
the
know what?
movie?
It's my husband's favorite movies. So
Really?
yes, but yeah, he loves them. He loves them. He loves them all. The Keanu Reeves one, isn't it? Is that the Keanu Reeves?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. He
yeah.
loves them.
Uh,
No, look, I'm sure I have, but if you ask me to remember anything in it, I watch a movie and I forget it within half an hour of watching it.
right,
Like
well,
water in, water out.
I've seen part of it. Tell the truth, I wasn't a fan,
No,
so
yeah.
I got distracted and started doing something else. But there was one moment in there where what's his name, Neo? He has the red pill, and he has that, and he finally sees how things really work. Okay,
I sort of
how it
remember
all
that part.
fits together. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what's the one piece of knowledge or understanding you wish like more clients had their red pill moment? What's one thing that you wish
Oh,
people had about
yeah.
finance?
Love that. Start when you're 18. $10 a month, $50 a month. If you put, I'm passionate about this with my kids too. So $2,500 away, and you do nothing else. By the time you're 45, so you want 30 years of that. So by the time you're 55, sorry, so 30 years, you would have. Hang on, I've got to think about this. Yes, I'm right. Okay, sorry, I'm just got to remember. I've just got to remember. So from 25, if you invested that $100 a month for 40 years, that's only $48,000 that you've put away. But that would
Mhm.
be worth $1 million to you. So for $48,000, so if I'd started when I was 25, putting $100 away, by the time I'm 65, so 15 years away, I'd have $1 million waiting for me with inflation, with everything. So $1 million
Yeah,
in today's dollar.
yeah,
But I would have only had to have put away $48,000. If I waited just 10 years and didn't start that till I was 35, I'd only have about $350,000. So, and I would have put away $36,000. So
right.
compounding is magic. And anyone under the age of 25 or 30, if they could just do one thing and just add a little bit extra to super, $50 a month to super extra. And I know I know anything where the government can change rules, like superannuation, is
Yeah,
scary and daunting for people because you're putting it in the hands of the government. It is still an attractive vehicle. Even if they keep changing the rules, it's still an attractive vehicle. And the best thing about super, especially for someone like me who likes to travel as soon as I've got spare money, you can't touch it, and so having that
yeah,
money in super is brilliant for someone like me. But compounding, that's a huge thing. Start early. And my only other thing is that every time you get paid, change your mindset. You're not getting paid to chase bills. That money is a resource. Use that money to make more money. So even if you start with $10 every pay, if you make it a habit, it becomes like what I imagine going to the gym for some people, where you have to do it to feel good.
Yeah.
If you can start making saving a habit, you are always going to be wealthy. Some of my wealthiest clients, I'm not kidding, I've got a client who retired in his 60s, school teacher for 40 years up in North Queensland. So not a great salary, just over 40 years. But he bought a number of houses in Brisbane back in the 90s, and also super being a teacher for 40 years, as well as shares and different IPOs along the way. I think he got into the CBA IPO.
Right. Okay.
And he retired with millions and millions of dollars. Just that slow and steady, that slow and steady,
Wow.
always saved, always bought something. And it sounds boring, but it's what it is every month.
Oh.
But it's a mindset. You've got to stop chasing bills, and don't buy the junk fashion, the $20 dress or the thing from Temu, whatever it might be. All you're doing when you do that is you're making the company owners rich. Become the company owner. Buy a share in Temu. Buy a share in, I don't know, what's a junk, Supre or Dotty or what, Glassons or whatever the latest clothing stores are, where everybody's spending their $20 and $30. Instead of doing that, put $20 or $30 into becoming a share owner, and buy stock on the share market. So change your mindset. Become a company owner. Don't make the company owners rich. You become one of the company owners. And every month, pay yourself. Pay your future self. I remember I had this great mentor when I was young, and he said to me, this is before AI, but he was like, put a picture, somewhere that's an old person that reminds you of yourself. This is before AI. And imagine that person is you, and imagine that person with millions of dollars. You can do that now, if you start putting money away, sort of visualize yourself as an older person.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know about you, Nigel, but I never see myself as an older person. I don't know, like I
No.
never, if you did an AI photo of me when I was in my 60s or 70s, it just wouldn't feel like it was me. It's like I don't think the humor, I don't think we're able to think of ourselves as that 65-year-old person down the track. But if you could, imagine what you could do for that person.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
It's hard to get your head around. But
it is. It is.
Yeah.
And I think also, I'm speaking to a lot of people like our age, and I remember being, say, 30 years younger and thinking, like when my parents were my age now, I used to think they were
Yeah.
really old.
Oh, God, so old. I know.
Yeah.
I know.
I'm waiting. I'm sort of waiting to get old, but
I know.
because I'm thinking,
It's so true. I know. This can't be me. I'm like, I stand up and I'm like, oh, I'm getting old. I'm like, my bones are creaking. I'm like, no, I've got travel to do. No. Yeah. But if I had to visualize myself now when I was 20, when I was 20, I would have thought 50, oh God, I'll be in a nursing home. I won't be
Yeah.
traveling or doing anything at that age. So if I knew at 20 how I feel now at 50, then I would have been putting way more money away for myself now. As much as you're lovely, I wouldn't be sitting here doing a podcast with you if I'd put all my money away when I was 20. I'd be traveling somewhere,
Well, I
Actually,
remember when I still at school, maybe, I don't know, 17, 18. I decided I was going to get married when I was 27 and in November.
yeah.
And because I
That's good.
thought, well, 27, I've done everything I wanted to do by that stage.
You'll be old by then. You'll be old by then. You'll be ready to settle down and put your slippers on and
Yeah.
I know, don't. It's awful. I'm just like, no, I'm not old. That's all right. I get it from my kids all the time. So it's all right. I'm used to it. But no,
Now,
it's true. If you could visualize yourself then though to now, wouldn't you love to have just put every month just something away somewhere, that you never touched?
I heard something like that or similar when when I started working, and I thought whatever the amount was, I thought, well, that's not too much. I'll do that later. I'll,
Yeah,
you
oh,
know,
I know.
I'll
And later
I'll
never
see
comes.
that. Yeah, never
I
happened.
know. I know. I wish I'd started earlier. I think with that example I gave earlier, I think if you're 50 and you start and you want that same sort of money, I think it's something like $6,500 a month you've got to do instead of 100. So
Right.
it becomes you can actually work out the figures, but I think to try and get that much money into your super, instead of that $100 a month example from 25, if you wait till you're 50, it has to be 6,500 a month. And that's just
Yeah.
into your super, and that doesn't take into account everything else. And you know what it's like in your 30s and 40s. You've got kids, there's school fees, your
Mm.
parents, need more of you. It's busy decades, I think, in your 30s and
Yeah.
40s.
And look at, and yeah, you're right. And going from being an individual, just yourself, where
Yeah.
you just
Yeah.
worry about yourself, and then, you can keep an eye on the bank account and everything else. Then all of a sudden, there's a
Yeah.
family, there's kids, there's everything. And you
Yeah.
think, well, sort of, what's the point? There's
Yeah.
money going out everywhere.
Yep.
I can't control this.
And no, and it's hard if you're not in the mindset of saving it also, it's very hard to think, "Oh, I've got to I can't do that because I've got to put this money away." Or that, it's like, "I don't really need to put that money away this month. It won't make any difference this month. I'll keep that money because we've got to buy more school uniforms or we've got to do this," or it can be very hard to continue doing it. It's a real discipline, and I'm going to admit I definitely had years where I didn't do it.
Yeah.
Because life got busy and I just kept thinking, "I'll go back to it. I'll be fine. I'll get back to it." And
I'll never be
now
that 65-year-old person.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, oh god. And now I'm like, "Okay, I wish I'd done it." But if I could impart anything to kids, it's as early as you can start, because then it does become something that you can't stop. I have one friend only. So Gen Xers are not good at this, but I have one friend only who she
That
almost
like you only
physically
have one friend
yeah, I know.
ever.
I don't have many these days, Nigel. I don't have time, but I've only got one acquaintance, no, I've only got one person my age who I know who actually gets almost like a physiological response when she doesn't put some money away. It's like
Oh, really?
and her parents did that with them, which was, I've always been really impressed. Her parents had very huge money mindset. Mine didn't. And they instilled from her from a very early age. It's basically become, it's like, I don't know, it's part of her, she has to put money away. And when she doesn't, if she doesn't do it, she actually has like a physiological reaction. So it's great though, because she has saved and she's definitely not tight, because you can put that along with sometimes with people who aren't very generous or who,
Mm.
might be more difficult to go out with, but they're usually not. They're structured. They know what they can do. They put their money away first and they get to before paying. They're like, "I can't go out this weekend, but let's make it next weekend." They're just very good at knowing their boundaries.
Mm.
And that's not something that I've ever been really good at, which is why I'm glad I've always had a handle on superannuation and tax and other things where I can minimize my impact on my cash flow because
Yeah.
because I didn't have it growing up. I didn't have a really good role model with money, which is fine. Um, but I know I sort of, and even now, and I also think it's my personality. I'm always like, "It'll be all right. We'll be all right. We'll fix, we'll look after that next year."
Well,
Um,
maybe, because you didn't have that role model when you were younger is probably why you got into it now.
I think so, yeah. And I mean, we had great fun. I think that's why I love traveling. Mum and Dad used to take us. We did a lot of fun things. So
Mm.
I had a really fun childhood, just with not much thought of saving, or not much thought of how we were affording it or spending it or what we were doing with it. So it was fun though, and so that's where I'm always torn: fun saving, fun
Yeah,
saving.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
it's yeah, definitely behavioral. You definitely have to find that balance.
Yeah, well, I remember when I was younger, when I was sort of saying, "Oh, no, I'll put it away later,"
Yeah.
I just tell myself, "Well, gotta grow up with no regrets."
Yes, I do.
And
I still do that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And it's true,
Okay,
it's true.
yeah,
And that's
yeah,
why I wouldn't want anybody to you don't wanna if there's always a fine line between, you know, buying the new car or having the trip or taking your kids to SeaWorld for 4 days instead of just going down there for a day, or there's always a fine line between things that you want, or that new dress that's gonna make you feel really good even, or a pair of shoes that's gonna make you feel really good. Thing is just putting boundaries in. How many pairs of
yeah.
shoes or how many trips do you need to take?
You can
Or
justify anything, really, couldn't
yeah.
you?
You
Yeah.
can't, it's like a diet. No one likes to go on a diet. No one likes to be on a budget. So
Yeah.
I think it's always best to work out what you can take out of your pay or your income straight away, knowing that as that money resource builds, that money's going to make you money, and you're going to be able to step away from work eventually. So it's
Yeah.
understanding that the fine line between the instant pair of shoes now or the instant trip now versus putting money over here and buying part of that company that's actually going to start making you money, where
Yeah.
in 5, 10, 15 years, you're going to be able to have those shoes, but also not work if you don't want to, because
Yeah.
you've made your money work. So I think it's getting people to not see their paycheck as just a way to pay bills. It's actually a resource that can be really powerful if you use it properly.
Yeah.
That's hard. You've got to keep reminding yourself that every time you get your money, you're like, this money it's mine. I've made this money, and I can make this money make me more money, or I can go and spend it on a pair of shoes, which I'll probably throw away in 6 months, or a holiday, which would be great fun. But we could have fun just going to South Bank and walk along the river and drive to a beach and have a picnic nearby. Like there's
Yeah.
definitely it's choice. It's all choices. It's all people again. Back to people.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, what makes it harder now or easier to spend is a lot of times you're not parting with actual physical cash. You
Oh
you
yeah, I
don't
know.
have that experience of handing. It's just a tap
Yeah,
and go type thing, and you don't feel
yeah.
the pain of handing over the cash.
No, I only just recently, and I've stolen it from someone, and I can't think who, or I would give them credit. Um, I've done the 3 jars for my 2 younger kids, my 14 and 12-year-old. We've only just started it, and they get $10 a week, which doesn't sound like a lot, but they have to put $5 into the investment jar because they live at home, and then $4 into the spending jar, and then $1 into the giving jar. Um, and at the end of the month, I double what's in the investment jar for them, so they get to see that their investments grow.
Oh,
They get to
wow.
spend, yeah, they get to spend in the jar whatever they want. And then with the giving jar, they've got to actually go and, put it in someone who's busking, or, just they've got to give that money away to someone in the community somewhere.
Oh,
Just
wow.
might just be a busker at the moment, or just to get used to,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, because I think for some people, saying that they want to be wealthy seems like a bad thing to do. It's like wealthy, it seems like it's selfish or you're self-centered if you say you want to be wealthy. But being
Yeah.
wealthy can also do a lot of good, in the community as well. So if my kids become wealthy, I want them to also do good with that. And I don't want them to be ashamed to say that I want to be wealthy, because wealthy gives you the ability to look after family, the ability to be
Yep.
able to actually step up and help people who haven't been able or who haven't been fortunate enough to, be able to do what you've been able to do. So I think it's also getting people to not be scared of saying that they want to make money, because that can be seen as a bad thing in society. When you
Yeah.
say, I want to make money, I want to be rich, that can be seen as.
Being selfish or whatever.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. Being self, and it's not. But I definitely do like the idea of the kids learning that there's 3 buckets. There's your spending, investments, and then eventually as they get a bit older, well, my 12-year-old, teach her about tax. The tax in
So
there as
you come
well.
along and take some of the money off her.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, no, I will, because like you said, it's the physical bit. So I had to go to the bank, and it was so strange. I went to the bank over the holidays, and I was like, I need like $100 worth of $2 coins, and $100 worth of $1 coins, because I want to actually. She just went, I don't think I've had this request for 12 months, and I was like, I know. Anyway, I'll
I
let
think
you
I've
know.
got
It's
some
it's a
coins
social
around here
experiment.
somewhere.
Well, yeah, my kids aren't interested at this point, because $5 at the moment for them, I mean, that doesn't even buy them a chocolate breaker at their tuck shop
Yeah.
these days. So they're not that interested at this point. But as they see that money growing over here, I'm hoping that it's going to get them more excited. So at
Yeah.
the moment, it's really a me project, but I'll let you know if they ever actually spend time looking at it.
Okay. No,
Check back with me in 6 months.
will do. That sounds like a great idea. I hadn't heard of that before.
Yeah,
So
we'll see. Well, yeah, we'll
yeah.
see.
Well, yeah. Now back to Hudson's. You've been there since 2020, and God, here during that time, the business has expanded. You've added accounting, specialists, self-managed super fund division, aged care
Yeah,
accredited planning division, QRops
yeah,
expertise for returning expats,
yeah,
wholesale and direct share portfolios for sophisticated investors, managed accounts, digital SOAs, DIY planning
yeah.
tools, and Nancy, the AI bot. So, a
I
lot of
sound
stuff.
busy. I
You
sound
sound
busy.
busy. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes.
And how did you like prioritize or say, well, these projects go first, or we can do them all
Yeah,
at once, or what was the decision making between which ones to go for now and which ones to delay?
again, really good people with me, really, to be fair. I think the first 2 or 3 years I was very reactive. So I was reacting
Okay.
to problems that we had. And the last 2 or 3 years I've been able to be proactive, which has been far more rewarding than being reactive. But being reactive to problems that we were having, and one of the biggest problems we were having was not having an accounting division, because so much of financial planning is about trying to increase your cash flow. And one of the best ways to increase your cash flow is minimizing your tax. And we tried for about 2 years to find a really good accountant to work in with us. In the end, I just thought I need to do it myself. I think who is the guy from the Flight Center? The guy from Flight Center. I remember
Okay.
seeing him talk one day, and he said something like, "When I don't have it in house, I'm just going to bring it in house. When I don't have something, I'm just going to bring it in myself, and that way I get to have it exactly how I want it to be." So
Yeah.
accounting, we tried to outsource it. It wasn't working. I wanted it to all be under one roof, collaborating, so that the the tax minimization was part of their entire plan, because I don't know how it can be separated. So that's how
Yeah.
accounting started. And then from there, um, well, I've got a self-managed super fund. So everything just sort of, I think one thing leads to another, but I didn't
Right.
want to be reactive anymore. And so when I came back in 2020, the company it had its problems, needed to be fixed. And so we had to make a lot of hard decisions, make a lot of changes. And I think reacting is never good for a business. Cash flow suffered. There was lots of problems. So once I stopped reacting and took stock of the company to see where I really wanted it to land, where I wanted it to go, where I felt like a really good, comprehensive advice firm that I could put my name to should go, that's when I started adding things like aged care, self-managed super fund, Div 296 modeling. And I want people to be able to just have strategy done. They don't need to do product to have an advisor. It's a way that you can make money off clients, is having their product with us, but they also don't have to have product. I want to be able to have a client who sits with us, who it's a win-win. Yes, they'll have to pay for our service, but they'll win from that, and they don't have to keep paying. They get the
Yeah.
service. We'll save them money tenfold over from having the strategy done for them. But then unless you're in retirement, hand on my heart, unless you're in retirement or sort of 50 or above, you don't really need an advisor every year unless you really need help staying in your product investments. If you saw an advisor every 3 or 4 or 5 years between the ages of 25 and 50, or maybe every 4 or 5 years, that's really all you need to do. Get your next strategy in place, build up equity, touch base with the planner again. And that's what I sort of wanted Hudson to be, a little bit different. You still, over the age of 50, as you're transitioning to retirement and you're selling down assets and legislation changes, and there's lots of bring forward rules and concessional rules with super and things that we can tweak, even down to things like your testamentary trust if you want to, encompass your family. But prior to the age of 50, I wanted a service where you could come in, get everything laid out for you, a document that you've got which shows you what you should do, what your options are, how you can minimize your tax. You can go away and do it yourself because most people are smart enough to do that. The time when you probably need us the most is if you're a huge spendaholic or you're not very good at staying on track. Then you might pay a fee to have us on you all the time. That'd be like a quarterly, what have you done? You haven't done this, which is awful, but we will do it for people, which I hate doing because I feel like I'm their mum, but I'm good at that. Um, but some people need that and it helps them. It's like, I guess it's a bit like meeting your personal trainer at the gym. If you know you've got to meet them, you're more likely to get up and go to the gym. If you don't have to meet
Well,
anyone there.
no,
Yeah.
that's it. I
So
mean, they're only going to get in trouble if they're not doing what they're meant to be doing,
yeah,
which is good for themselves.
yeah. If you're not disciplined enough, you need an advisor. But if you've got discipline or you're focused on your goal, I don't think under the age of 50, I think just getting strategy or getting some plans put in place and having a good talk about your mindset and what you want is generally enough. And then you hit 50 and things start to change and you want to start looking at, well, maybe can I work part-time? Can I can I do 5 more years and then can I retire at 55? Or do I need to do 10 or do I need to do 15? It's really
Yeah.
good to start getting projections done. So
Yeah.
I started thinking of the sort of firm that I wanted rather than the sort of firm that I'd inherited, basically. because I bought
Right.
into Hudson in 2004, had kids, was not the managing director, wasn't involved in any of the decisions at the top end. Business partner died, and I got to the option of I got the rest of Hudson, so I fully own Hudson, and I got to do some of the things that I'd wanted to do sort of 10 years ago. And it's been great. I've got really a good team around me, and we're all really. I know everyone says that, and I know that it's cliche to say your team's got to be smarter than you. Not smarter. We all fit. We're all like the yin to the yang for each other at work,
Yeah.
and so we sort of, I don't know, we bring each other things that we all don't have, and that makes us a really good team. And I think it also brings ideas to me. They give me ideas. They mention something that they don't have, and I'm like, right, let's bring it in. We can do that, and I can pivot quickly because it's just me. I've got no board. I own the whole
Yeah.
company. I'll never have a board. I don't take on equity owners. I won't do private equity. I don't do any of that because I can pivot tomorrow. If one of the advisors wants to do something and I agree with it, I can just put it on tomorrow. I can put any product I want on my APL. And I think that's the beauty of where I'm at, is that I can pivot, I can move, I don't need approvals. And I've been doing it a long time. So I'm trust myself, back myself, 110%, which is half the battle, I think, with business. And I'm
Yeah.
happy to take a risk. My husband,
Yeah.
not so much. He's he'd prefer a 9 to 5 job, no business risk. So but I'm the complete opposite. So he's good for me. He also keeps me balanced at work. He's the CFO at work, so he's also
Okay.
sometimes stop spending. He'll say, stop spending. Stop,
Put some away for
stop
the
putting
future.
stuff on. Yeah, stop.
So what about Nancy? Because we've
Oh, I
spoken
love
a lot
Nancy.
about the
Oh,
human element and everything. So what role does Nancy play?
Nancy's great. So she's purely AI, but she's got guardrails in so that everything that's been uploaded into Nancy is Hudson technical information. So we've
Right.
got the SIS Act uploaded, we've got the Corps Act, we've got all of the latest legislation. Everything that's in Nancy is updated, and it's been built with guardrails so that if you're in Nancy and you're asking a question about your superannuation, it will only look at information that I've uploaded into it. It uses the chat platform for you to be able to talk to it and ask it questions, but it only takes information from what we've uploaded from our Hudson database,
Right.
which means that you're not ever going to get an incorrect technical answer. But the problem with any AI is that it's really only as good as the user. So if you ask it a question that's wrong, it's still going to be wrong. Or if you ask it in a way where it's a bit grey, it still may interpret your question wrong. And that's the only disadvantage of AI. But Nancy's as good as it can get. And you can ask Nancy anything. You can ask it about goals. You can ask Nancy about property and stamp duty and the first homeowners grant. And you can have a talk to Nancy. And if Nancy doesn't quite know something, which is really rare, it'll send a question to an advisor, to get the advisor to answer it for you.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But the
So,
disadvantage, again, always with any AI is purely that it's only as good as the user. And that's with AI, with anything. So we do a technical check. So if you used AI, and put a plan together, which you can do easily, and 90% of those plans are they're really good. I can't fault AI in how it does its plans up, but it's in that it doesn't understand the nuances with tax, especially.
right.
It doesn't quite understand the nuances with tax. And occasionally it might, it was telling me yesterday that the superannuation guarantee rate was 11.5. So it will occasionally have an outdated rate.
Right.
But if you did a plan with AI and you came to Hudson, we would do a technical check on it for $550, which is really cheap in the industry, but it would
Yeah.
just be a technical check. We would see if there was a strategy gap, and we would say to you, you probably have a strategy gap. It will cost you X amount of dollars for us to do a strategy for you. But technically, that's right. Technically, your AI plan is right. Because AI is, and I love AI for work. AI has created massive efficiencies. I love our AI avatar because it does answer a lot of questions. I also love AI because it makes planning, stockbroking, derivatives, it makes everything accessible for everybody. So all information's created equal. Like it means that someone who hasn't gone to uni or who hasn't had the fortunate upbringing of, say, learning about money, they can ask Nancy anything they want, even AI, and it will answer so many questions, so that when you do go and see somebody, you're already fairly well educated on what the share market does. Be surprised how many people don't know what the ASX 200 actually is. They hear it all the time. They see it on the news. They don't actually know what the ASX is, or even that the ASX is actually a business and that they make money from you trading. And that, of course, they want to keep showing you the stock prices because they create FOMO so that you go and trade and they make money. But people don't think of the ASX like that. So it's AI is amazing for that, because it does start to get you to think and learn a lot about money before you even spend money seeing someone like us. So that by the time you get to us, you know what the ASX 200 is. You know that they're there to make money. You understand what a managed fund is. You know what, a bond is, because you've already had a good chat to Nancy or AI, and you found out all about, the different
Okay,
financial products.
so use it as so when they sit down with you, they're further advanced, and you can talk
Yeah,
about more
exactly.
complex and
Yeah,
more. Okay.
absolutely. Because I would never trust an AI plan. Just I don't trust AI with legal either. I get great advice from AI about legal things that will come up, but I always like to just get it double checked off by a lawyer. But at least before I go to the lawyer, I know a lot about it and I can ask the right questions. And that's how I would use AI with a financial advisor.
Okay. Well, since you're a fan of AI, what I've done is I've used that to come up with a question. I've asked it to come up with a question specifically for you regarding AI.
Okay.
Okay, and the financial
AI better be
industry.
nice to me here.
Okay, so here we go. You ready?
Yep.
Okay, Juanita, you've led Hudson Financial Partners through a period of growth, generational transition, and increasing complexity in client expectations. There is a question coming. When you look at the next decade, where AI, automation, and client-facing technology are accelerating, what part of financial advice do you believe must remain deeply human for a firm to stay trusted and competitive?
I think all initial advice that you take should be from a human. I think the human element, understanding the nuances with different people, like I said to you earlier, all financial planning technically is the same. It doesn't matter. All the technical sides of financial planning are the same. All the rules are the same for everybody.
Yeah.
It's how you put those rules around the person. And that's something that I don't think AI will ever be able to fully grasp. I mean, maybe if it keeps going like this, maybe you'll have your own personal AI that will know you, Nigel, really well. It'll know, you'll wake up and be like, Nigel, your eggs are ready the way you're not ready. Don't forget, you've got to have your 2 tablets and your
Yeah.
cup of tea and maybe it will say, Nigel, you don't seem happy today. Is it the fact that your fish died last night? So you might get to a point where you've got your own personal AI that knows you so well that it can actually start to give you advice on your money. I'm sure it'll come to that at some stage. But I still think that at least in the next decade, well, who knows actually how quickly this will go, but at least, okay, let's say 5 years, decade, I don't know what's going to happen in the next decade. AI is increasing at a huge, just the things that AI can do now is just incredible. But I think the human element of financial advice is not just knowing the nuances, it's also having someone to talk to. And when you're talking about money that you've earned, that you've spent, years studying for or working for, you don't just want to trust a computer. As trustworthy or as much knowledge as they have. I don't want to talk out of turn about AI here. I'm scared it might come and it's been so good for me. I'm scared it's going to, what's that when the machines come alive? But I think the human element is one of care, one of understanding, one of knowing what's important to you without you having to say it. Just talking to you or just seeing where your eyes go or how you sit. I can work out what sort of person you are, what might be important to you. I don't think AI is ever going to be able to do that, work out without you explicitly telling AI what you like. But
Yeah.
sometimes that's
Yeah.
hard. Sometimes you don't know what you like. Sometimes maybe me sitting with you and me talking to you is going to help you find out what you like or what you want. And I don't know that AI is ever going to get to that human element.
And
But
I think also,
once you've had that initial piece with me though, Nigel, and I've given you some great ideas or you've got some strategy, then I think AI can still enhance that even further by enhancing your knowledge, helping you stay on track. And to be fair, we've got clients who actually put our strategies through AI and they come back and they say, "Oh, AI liked your strategy." I'm always like, "Oh, that's good." I'm always like, but so AI will test people as well. It would test firms. It would test strategy. I think AI will ultimately make the best of the best survive. I don't know if that's. I think there's good and bad in that as well, but it will certainly test firms because everything's in the open. You can upload anything I send you, upload it to Chat or Claude, and it will tell you how good or bad it is, and if I've missed anything, or same as legal documents I get, I put them through Claude. How good's this? What are we
mm,
missing? What should be in here? So I think AI, I think it's got a lot of good, put it that way. And I know there's bad, but I think I'm always a half glass full sort of person. So I don't tend to think or dwell on the bad. When it happens, then I'll go, oh, yeah, okay, I should have seen that coming. But I tend not to. I tend just to see the positives out of it.
and also people like dealing with people as well.
Oh,
For someone
yeah,
to sit
that's fair,
down and
Nigel.
say, yeah, so to say, because what happens if the advice is wrong? You can't really talk to
No,
a AI bot and say, "Hang on, why did you do this? What's going on?" Where with a person, you can hold them accountable for
yeah,
for advice they've given you.
100%. But hopefully I've given you good advice and hopefully they've become almost part of your outer circle. They're part of an advisor should be part of your outer circle. Because if you're my client, I should know intimate things about you, like how much money you've actually got in your super, what you actually want to do with your life, where you want to leave your money. You might not want to leave it to your wife. You might have a mistress down the road, but I should know that. You know what I mean? Like these are things that I should know. So your advisor becomes quite an integral part of your life in a way. And I think
Yeah.
having a human that you like, that you get on well with,
So
is far more psychologically rewarding than having a computer. But
so
there's
like
definitely a place for AI, trust me. Like and I think there'll be AI avatars everywhere eventually that can do a lot of what I would do for you. But what they can't do is what you and I would do if we were, if you were my client.
yeah, yeah. Okay. Now, just a couple of quick questions before we finish off. What have I got here? Okay, these are my questions, not from AI. Um, where are we? Okay, so if you had to build a financial advice business from scratch today, what systems would you prioritize first?
Accounting. Actually,
Accounting?
I'd do it, yeah. I'd go accounting, and I'd look for advisors who were I'd be different. I'd have accounting, I'd have advisors. I would have really, really smart paraplanners. They'd be my technicians, my paraplanners, and
Hmm.
I'd have advisors who were really huge people, huge, not necessarily spreadsheet or math people, but people just can read a room, can work with people, love people, get energy from people. That's what I'd look for in advisors. And I'd have them paired with a really, really technical paraplanner. And then they'd just be unstoppable. That's how I would, and it's not that I don't have that now, but that's how I would start. That's how I would start fresh, is
Yeah,
that if I was to start fresh now, and I would still keep everybody I had there, but that's what I would look for. And I would have my paraplanners. I didn't put a lot of energy into my paraplanners at the beginning because I was thinking, well, that's the advisor. It's not. It's the paraplanner is the technician. The
technician.
advisors are too, but the advisors have to be people. And it's very rare, and correct me if I'm wrong, to find somebody who's amazing with people, who's also very good at detail and spreadsheeting and numbers. And it does happen, but it's rarer than finding someone who just loves people. They're quick process. They know how the system works. They know what to do for you. But when it comes to the detail, which is really important in financial planning, you need someone who's also got that detail.
Yeah.
We had a mishap years ago. An advisor did $100 instead of 100% in a rollover. This is 20 years ago. It was caught in the review process with the paraplanner. But these sort of little mistakes could
Right. Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, and this is the trouble with not being detailed. versus being
Yeah.
big picture. So, but I've learned that. That's one of my biggest lessons, I think, over the last 6 years is that you need the detail and the big picture to be a really good advisor.
Well, you've sort of covered off my final question, really.
Oh,
Because-
now do Nigel, on a scale of 1 to 10, do I talk more than any of your other podcasts going?
No, you which is great, which is
I'm
great.
up there, aren't I? I
Yeah,
know. I
it's
talk a lot.
a much better than having someone not saying anything. Um,
I'm a lot, Nigel. I know that.
well, my final question was going on from what systems you'd put in the business was breaking it down to an individual level. What attributes make a great financial advisor? Which you've
Ah,
covered that off. There
there
you
you
go.
go. Exactly. Yeah.
There we go.
You need the big picture. You can't just look at the technical. You need the big picture. And that's hard to get with a technician, because technicians are smart. Like, there's smart people that come and do this, because it's a lot of math, it's a lot of strategy, it's a lot of software, a lot of projections. And so to have an advisor who's got the big picture as well as that technical side, that's gold. You know, they're the ones you never let go of. But you can do it by pairing a great power planner with a people person. So yeah, that's my little gold nugget for the day, Nigel.
Fantastic. And as I said, when I saw your profile, I thought, wow, Juanita would be an interesting guest. We can
Oh,
do a whole series.
have I disappointed, or have I
No,
kept you entertained?
no, it's been great. It's been great. And look, some of the knowledge you've passed on was exactly what we were looking for. So thank you very much for that. So Juanita, thank you very much. You have a good day.
You
And
too.
everyone else, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next week on the Priority Lane.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Nigel.
This episode is sponsored by My Brokers app, a white label app built specifically for financial advisors and wealth management professionals. If you want to know how you can have your own app exclusively for your business and your clients up and running by this time next week, visit mybrokers.app or download the free My Brokers demo app from your favorite app store.